Welcome to Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm your host, Allison Preisinger-Heggins. The mission of this project is to take notice, to listen, to hold space by amplifying Black stories, experiences, and voices. Conversations on family life, finding joy, and interests of folks in our country and around the world who encounter racism on a daily basis. A portion of these discussions will be dedicated to holding space for guests who are comfortable sharing their personal experiences with racism. Stories help us all learn and connect. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. Let's take a moment to recognize, to take notice of the voices that are so often unheard. Land acknowledgement statements are an important part of honoring those whose land we now live and work on. I have chosen to begin each episode this way to spark ideas and keep these conversations in the front of our minds so that we may learn how to do better. I would like to acknowledge the land on which this episode was created. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Shoalwater Bay and Chinook tribes, recognizing that these names are not the original names of the people of these areas. As I continue to learn how to better acknowledge the native people of these lands, I will adjust the wording of the beginning of each episode. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. Welcome to another episode of Take Notice, and thank you for being here with us. In this episode, I speak with visual artist Shea Black. We ended up talking about the importance of art and creativity in getting through difficult times and finding hope. We talk about her family life, and we connected on a multitude of things. So Shea Black is a Seattle artist looking to spread love, positivity, empowerment, and unity through her art. She believes that now is the time for serious change so that we may all evolve, and that expression through art and love is just what we need to deeply improve the future of humanity. You can find her website and where to follow her online in the show notes or on our website under guests. Thanks again for being here, and please enjoy my conversation with Shea Black. Take Notice would like to take the time to acknowledge Black-owned businesses, organizations, and artists. If you have a suggestion of who we should highlight during our episodes, please find us on social media or visit our website. Take Notice invites you to follow and support Langton. Langton is a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization established in 2016 to lead programming within the historic Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute in Seattle. Langton guides generative programs and community partnerships that center Black art, artists, and audiences and honor the ongoing legacy of Seattle's Black Central area. They support a variety of enriching programs across multiple disciplines, rooted in the following mission and values: to strengthen and advance our community through Black arts and culture, to cultivate Black brilliance by sharing culture, promoting artistic expression, encouraging artistic excellence, facilitating cultural education and possibility, cultivating leaders, practicing radical inclusivity, thriving as a self-determined community. To follow and support, visit LangtonSeattle.org. Well, thank you, Shea, for joining me on Take Notice. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's nice to see your face and to meet you. Are you able to get out and about at all, or are you kind of stuck still?
Yeah, just the, every now and then grocery trips. But otherwise, I've just been in here cranking out art and stuff. So I just started doing more paint parties. So that's awesome. I've been able to interface with people. So yeah, we're getting there. Good.
Are you doing that in person or is it on Zoom and stuff?
No, in person. I'm looking to do more virtual parties. I have people out of state that are interested. So I'm hoping to do that pretty soon, but I've got a few projects going on. So it's like baby steps, we'll get there eventually.
Totally. Oh, that sounds fun. I like that. Paint parties. I've never done a paint party, but I always thought it'd be pretty cool. I know a lot of people who have. So how does that work? How do you run it?
So I actually, most people will come up with templates or something like that, but it's more of a class for me. I break down barriers because a lot of people have been, discouraged from art for one reason or another. Either they were told to color in the lines only when they were a kid, or, that their SpongeBob looks like a, disformed little alien. I don't know. But a lot of people have been really discouraged about even creating anything. So most of the time when I have a group, the whole group starts out with, I can't draw a stick figure. I can't even draw a straight line, all this stuff. But then they come out with these crazy, amazing pieces, and I have like a piece that I'll start with. And then I just tell them, like, come up with your own interpretation of it. I want to see your perspective of this. I don't want to just give you a template that I've drawn out and then it's just a coloring party. I want you to use your mind and bring out your creativity. And by the end of it, like, everyone has these amazing pieces and they're proud of, and then they can take that and apply that to, other aspects of their lives. And they feel more confident in the fact that they can actually do this, to something that they, never thought they had the ability to do. And it's been really awesome.
I love that approach. That's really cool.
Thank you. It's different for sure, but
yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
To like be able to pull out something that people, like, I'm one of those that I'm like, I don't think I'm very visual, but then I do something here or there and I'm like, oh, maybe I can do something that's not like a human face or something. But
everybody is an artist. So I believe that
too.
Everybody has it in them to be, Van Gogh if they want to be. But it's just, sometimes it just takes some encouragement and somebody, telling you can do it, and I'll help you out, but I'm not going to do it for you. Just how I do my sons, like, I'm not going to do it for you. You're going to get in there and you're going to do it, because otherwise it's just going to be me doing everything for you and you just, expecting that out of life. And that's not the reality. Like, you can do anything. Right.
So where did you grow up? You're currently in Seattle. Did you grow up in Seattle?
Yes, okay, I am awesome. A native Seattleite. I grew up out north, went to school out north up until I was 10. And then we had to move to like over by the Bitter Lake area.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then I went to African American Academy out in Magnolia, and then, moved to the one in the south end on Beacon Hill. But yeah, I've primarily been North Seattle my whole life. I just moved out to Des Moines, which is a complete shift, but I love it out here.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Des Moines, but I've heard nice things. Yeah.
It's beautiful. We live actually at the end of our block. We have a trail that takes us down to the marina, and it is gorgeous. Even on a nasty day, it's so beautiful and serene.
Oh, that's nice.
It's just and where we're at, it's just a good place for, the boys. They can go and ride their bikes in the street and we don't have to worry about it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, that's nice.
Yeah. We've settled into peace out here, which is really nice. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy because we'll go up the hill and that's Pack Highway and that's still a mess, but, we're at the bottom of the hill. So it's a lot calmer down here. But just the other day, we're just driving down the street and there are like 10 cop cars surrounding a metro bus. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? And here comes the A cars and all this other kind of stuff. And that's just typical, but in our little pocket, we don't hear any of that. We don't, have to experience any of that. So we're grateful for that part at least. But I mean, it's still around. I mean, everywhere really, You're just lucky to find a little zen spot.
That's great. So you said North Seattle in the Bitter Lake area is where you spent your first 10 years. What kind of family were you surrounded by at that time?
My family was awesome for the most part. I'm the middle of 7. At first it was just my mom and 4 girls. We'd have our Friday girl out days and all kinds of stuff. And then she met my twin brother's dad, and he was great for the most part, but he was an abusive alcoholic, and so we had to deal with a lot of that, And then, I was 5 when my mom was pregnant with the twins. And, I was super excited at first. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have twin brothers and everything. But then they come home and I'm like, oh man, like it sounds kind of sucky to say this, but as a 5-year-old kid, I was like, shoot, one of them is broken. One of the twins has cerebral palsy. And we have the best relationship now, but as a 5-year-old looking at this already chaotic situation, and he came home, and he couldn't express himself properly. He would bang his head on the ground because he couldn't talk, he couldn't walk. And I'm like, oh man, what's wrong with this kid? Like, I want to love him, I want to be able to help him, but like, how and of course that added another element to, like I said, an already chaotic situation with my mom and their dad. And so it was just, I don't know, it was just kind of a whirlwind. I found myself like on the outskirts of everything a lot. My sisters were older, so they had their friends and they would escape as much as they possibly could. But then that left me, at home with my mom and my brothers. Growing through that, of course, like I'm insanely close with my brothers and my mom, and I was always like right there with them, and even when I didn't want to be, but had to do what I had to do. So yeah, I mean, it was very very chaotic, a lot of turmoil, a lot of really hard situations to have to deal with, having to talk to CPS at school and that, like those kinds of things. So it took a while to feel okay with that part of my life. I'm still, working through things, and, recently called their dad out on some things, which I needed to do, standing up to my bully, essentially. But, we're here.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, especially I'm the youngest of two, but I imagine that as a 5-year-old, after being used to being the youngest, or just your unit, like adding on all the rest of that on top of, new kids coming along that I need to learn how to be a big sister for,
Yeah.
that sounds like a lot on top
and
of a lot. Yeah.
I never had to learn how to be around anyone with special needs or how to approach them, being 5, that's not something I had to deal with yet. And so, when my brother came home, and I was like, man, like, what is going on here? Like, just trying to wrap my 5-year-old mind around everything that was going on. And I was like, man, he's so adorable. Like, he's so awesome. But like, why won't he stop banging his head on the ground and screaming? And, his therapist was always out there, and she was amazing. And, trying to like help him walk. He had to go through a crazy amount of surgeries. So my mom was always away. So like, it was a lot to take in, and then also having to deal with this, person who I viewed as my dad. He's the only person I knew as dad at the time. But then he had a switch, and it would go, he would go from 0 to 60, and at one moment, I was like, oh yeah, this is my dad. He's totally awesome. Like, I'm sitting on his shoulders. We're walking to the store. And then the next minute he's like holding us at gunpoint in the room. And, it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot to take in as a child, but it's also brought us to where we are and molded us in a certain way and strengthened me, and my siblings and my mom, in a way. So, as much as I want to keep rehashing and dwelling on it, I kind of try to be as positive as I can about it and realize that it's molded me.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really change anything about how that went. So it sounds like, dealing with it and then being able to express some of your own stuff with him, that's a huge thing. That's not easy. So yeah. I mean, alcoholism and drug addiction, I think you said just alcoholism, but like any or either of
something else. Yeah.
Too. Right. Yeah. Yeah. One holds the other's hand a lot of times, for sure. So yeah, I mean, that's no small thing, especially for kids to have to go through and try to sort out emotionally. And
and my mom was amazing and is amazing, and she's done the very best that she could with what she was given. And, I don't want to take anything away from her. Like, I understand being a parent now. I mean, I was in an abusive relationship, not physically, but verbally, emotionally, all of that. And with my son as well. So, I mean, I understand a little bit of what she went through and how she felt trapped in that situation. So like, I don't fault her for anything. But being a kid, I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What did your mom do as you're growing up? Did she hold a job or was she mostly like needing to take?
Yeah, I mean, she had a couple jobs when I was young, but pretty much after my brothers came, she was just a stay at home mom and taking care of all of us. You know, like I said, my brother needed a lot of surgeries, and throughout the years, I think his last one was when he was like, I don't know, like 13 or like early teens or something. So and he's 27
Mhm.
now. But she had to go back and forth to Portland to his hospital with Shriners. So she had to go back and forth to Portland when he was having a surgery. So coming back on a train with her son with cerebral palsy, and he's got casts from his feet up to his hips. You know that.
Oof.
Well, yeah, at one point they had to like go in and break his bones and put pins in both of his legs, so he was in
Wow.
full leg casts. You know, and
Mhm.
you know, he already was like, man, I can't really, you know, move around and express myself as much as I want to. And he's so full of life, you know, so to see him just so restrained and restricted was really difficult. But you know, now looking at who he is, man, he's the most amazing guy I know. He's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. Is he in the Seattle area too, or?
Yeah, yeah. All of my siblings are in Washington. My oldest sister's out in Marysville. But then I have
Mm.
another sister who she's been bouncing around. I think she's in Kansas now, but she's moving to Tennessee soon. So, like I can never keep up with where she's going. Yeah.
What do they do? What are your siblings up to now?
My oldest sister, she's in insurance, health insurance. The next one, she's a dental assistant. She's been doing that for years. She's crazy amazing. My other sister that's bouncing around, she's got all kinds of businesses and she's an interior decorator and she does the full like HGTV like remodels and all that kind of stuff. It's
Oh,
really
wow.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really
That's
awesome.
awesome.
And then my older twin brother Alan passed away in
Mm.
2018, and you know he was just trying to figure himself out. He just signed up for art school, which that was crazy. I didn't even know that he was so artistic until after he passed away, and we
Oh,
found
wow.
like all of his sketches and his enrollment paperwork and all that stuff. I knew he was into like, you know, graphic designing and computer stuff, but I didn't realize that he was like a really good visual artist. He was really into
Mm.
anime and stuff, so he's got like all these like I actually still have some of them, but yeah, my mom really like tucked all of his stuff away. She wants to
Mm.
preserve it as much as possible, but
Mhm.
you know. And then Alon, that's the one with cerebral palsy. He worked for QFC for like 6 years before COVID, and so he's been off work and he's been going nuts. He's like, I'm trying to get back. You know, he needs to be like doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then my
Yeah.
youngest brother, Javon, he's 20 and he's trying to figure himself out now. He's into modeling and he's a skater and he's just like this super cool dude that you can't tell anything about, you know. So
Of course. Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Aw. That sounds like a great big family.
Yeah, you
That's
know,
wonderful.
we're pretty
Yeah.
tight and you know, we've had our ups and
Mhm.
downs, but we, you know, through all of it, we managed to come back together and no matter what we go through, we end up stronger than ever because of it. So, I'm very
Mhm.
thankful and grateful for that. You know, we have a pretty good foundation.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah. Was there a specific story you had in mind that you wanted to share? I know you mentioned maybe talking about your brother that passed in 2018, but we can talk about
Yeah.
that or we can talk about something else.
Yeah, no, I love talking about him. He was an amazing guy. His name is Alan. I don't like to talk about him in the past tense because he's here.
Sure.
He's so present. And I'm like
Yeah.
literally looking at a picture that I painted of him right now. He hangs out in my studio and watches over me and stuff. And he was just a great guy, you know. We weren't super close the last 8 months that he was alive because of a past relationship that I was in. He just really isolated me from my family and stirred up all kinds of mess. And you know, it was just a weird thing because that whole year leading up to his death, I just had this nagging feeling that he was going to pass away that year. And I
Mm.
couldn't explain it, but I kept having dreams and just feelings. And the day that he passed away, I was actually getting out of that relationship. I had a friend of mine who lived down the street, and we had already come up with an escape plan and all kinds of stuff. She was going to rent a room or a downstairs apartment to me, whichever I wanted. And that would have been perfect. My son would have still been able to go to school and all this stuff. So we actually had a whole plan in line in case I needed to leave. And that morning, we had gotten into a huge argument, and it was about nothing. Like, I actually got up and was super jovial, like, hey, you want some breakfast? Like, but of course he would start something out of nothing. And I was like, you know what, this is it. I'm done. So I grabbed my son, got in my old Cadillac, and hoofed it over to my friend's house. And we were there from about 11 in the morning. Actually, it was 11:11 when I left, because like those are my spirit numbers. And I remember checking my phone like as I was leaving. It was 11:11, and actually my brother passed on 11:11. He passed on November 11th, 2018. And so I get over to my friend's house, and we're there until about 2, and my phone is just going off like crazy, but it was getting ready to die. So I'm looking at the phone. It's my mom and my grandmother, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I wasn't even talking to my mom at this time. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go home and grab some things and grab my charger, because I just left. Me and my son, we just got out of there. We didn't bring anything. I was like, so I'm just going to go home. He should be diffused by now. I'm just going to grab some stuff, and I'm going to come right back here. So I go home. Like I said, it's about 5 minutes away, and I plug in my phone for a second, go use the restroom, come back, call my mom, and she's like, Alan's in the hospital. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm on my way. She had called me before he was in the hospital, probably like 2 months before, but I didn't feel anything then. I was like, I'm not coming. He's going to be fine. He's going to go home. He'll be okay. And he did. But this time I was like, no, I'm on my way. And then, like, as I'm leaving, my ex, like, started up some more drama. And I'm like, dude, like, get out of here. So, like, the whole time I'm on my way to the hospital, walking into the hospital, he's, like, texting me and messaging me with all kinds of nonsense. And I'm like, dude, like, let me deal with this, So I get to the hospital, and he's up at Harborview. And I go to the front desk, and I'm like, I'm here for Alan Jefferson. And immediately the guy's like, oh, okay, so what you're going to want to do is go through these doors. And I was like, oh shit, like, excuse me. I was like, something's up. And so I walk through the doors and see my mom and her husband and the social worker, my grandmother, and they're just like, Alan's gone, and that I literally like hit the floor, lost all feeling. And I've honestly been pretty numb ever since, and like he was my best friend. He was just, I'm very grateful for an experience that I had with him like 2 months before he passed. I happened to go over to my mom's house, and I knew he was there, and I was dreading, seeing him. And then he came out, and I just like dropped, and then he just came up and like swooped me up, and he's like, it's okay. It's all right. He's like, it's all right. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. And that was like 5 minutes, but I can hold on to that and say, I did get a last embrace with him, and we had a mutual clearance as brother and sister, and we were good. So fast forward, like after his death, we were trying to figure out what happened, like he was a 24-year-old healthy male. Yeah, he drank, but he was good, The thing that is so perplexing to us is that he was the only Black male in a house full of 5 of his white friends, quote unquote. I say this because friends wouldn't have done the things that they did. I won't divulge too much just because it's still very open, but there was no investigation done. He was dead in that apartment with them for upwards of 2 hours before they even called 911. They weren't even going to call 911. They were in the process of moving his body outside when one of their roommates came home and was like, what the hell? And she's a good friend of my brother's. And she was like, did you guys call 911? And they're all like, no. And she's like, no, call 911. So she actually called 911 on her phone and gave it to and this is like a 40-year-old man's apartment. And he's known for being like the flop house and having like all these young kids come and hang out, and he'll supply whatever they want and all kinds of stuff. He actually just got into a hit and run, a serious hit and run, I think like 3 weeks before this, and lied his way out of it. And so, I mean, he should have been in prison for that and not even able to have been around my brother at that point. His kids were in the home. We met with him later on, and he essentially said that his kids were like playing around with my brother and all kinds of stuff, but he was gone for a good amount of time. So I don't know. There are just a lot of intricacies to this, and the fact that no investigation was ever formed, it just blows my mind. There were 12 EMT responders at the scene. It was game day though, so I think they just saw it as a cut and dry case. This black guy's dead. It's all good. And the fire chief actually told us that the reason why they didn't dispatch the police was because there was no threat detected. So the black guy's dead. Now there's no threat. So, and I'm like, out of 12 responders, there was a fire chief, 2 road chiefs, and then I think the rest were EMTs. So out of all those 12 people, not one person can dispatch a police officer to go and check out the scene. When he got to the hospital, he was cold. They had him identified as Doe, even though his ID was in his pocket. None of his so-called friends even gave them his name. They pretty much just all disassociated from him. They've all refused to speak with us about anything. And we've contacted everybody. We've contacted all kinds of government officials. No one will respond to us about it. We've given them all the documentation they've requested from us. Once they get the documents, they just write us off. And it's because they know that something's up, and something's amiss, and someone dropped the ball somewhere, but no one wants to acknowledge it. And so we're just, it's been 2.5 years and we're just stuck. Like, my mom can't move on. His twin, who already has cerebral palsy and super sensitive to everything, just lost his best friend. They were literally like practically attached to the side, and he tried to kill himself afterwards. Like, my family has been through so much since this, and like no one will even take the time to listen to his story. And it's so aggravating, and it just makes me want to, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my next steps are, because we're still going. My mom is still reaching out to whoever she can reach out. She's reached out to the Supreme Court. We've gone everywhere and no one will respond. So at this point, we just keep his story alive and keep his memory alive. But there's got to be more than that. Like, these people should be held accountable for something,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can't imagine. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your loss. And I can't imagine not being able to get anybody to listen, that would be able to do something or help try to figure out what happened. Or, I can't imagine how hard that would be. So, because you can't have any kind of closure, and even when you do have closure with a death in the family, it's an open wound forever, kind of. So I can only
so many things. Like, they intubated his dead body, those kinds of things, just unethical things. And I believe that that's the reason why we're not getting a response from anyone. It's because they know exactly what was done or not done.
Right. And more than just the folks that were in the house would have to answer for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I mean, somebody who's 24 and healthy, and I would imagine that somebody would be called or to come check it out and investigate. Yeah. So what's the reason why not? What's the only reason there is, somebody that's higher up is going to get in trouble, it sounds like.
Yeah. It's hard not to point out the obvious. There's like, he was the only black guy, And,
Right.
if they're not giving us any other explanation, then that's what we're running off, 'Cause
Hmm.
I honestly believe that if the roles were reversed and there were five black guys in the house and the one white guy died, I highly believe that there would have been at least one police officer out there to question the living people.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
it
That's what
just,
should have happened.
yeah, it makes me
Yeah.
wonder. So
Hmm.
we're in a limbo right now.
Yeah, man. Well, I hope that you find somebody that can help you all out.
Yeah, that's what I've been hoping for. I've been like I've put his story out on Facebook. I've done like live feeds, and I was really close
Hmm.
to calling everyone out that was with him by name. And my mom was on board and everything, but then she got a little headway from an attorney, and she was like, "Okay, don't say names yet." So I was like, all right,
Right.
fine," But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I've put a story out there a few times, just seeing if anybody out there would be able to, help out. And I'll continue to
Hmm.
do that. We'll continue to fight for him until
Yeah.
we seek some answers.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would be doing. Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to begin if I were you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard that would be. Hmm. Oh, thanks for sharing that. I imagine
Yeah.
it's um, not easy to talk about, but I
Yeah.
definitely understand the importance of talking about it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I've gone through a lot of transformation since he passed away, and honestly, like I thank him in so many ways. I look back on the day he passed away, and when I was getting out of that relationship, and I sometimes wonder if I would have gone back to my friend's house, or if I just would have been like, oh, okay, you know what, I'll just stick out my lease here, if my brother hadn't passed away, because I ended up back at my mom's house that day, or the next day. I went to my uncle's house that night. But my son and I were back living with my mom after that for the next year. And I sometimes wonder, like, if I would have actually gotten out of that situation and how that would have ended had my brother not passed away. He was always looking out for me, when
Hmm.
he was alive, and now, he's always been my guardian. He's my younger brother, but he's always been my older brother.
Hmm.
Help me out
Hmm.
with gas money or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
he was just that kind of guy. So
Yeah.
and he's been guiding me. He's been guiding me so much. I was not a super strong person before he passed away, but from that day, I had to like hold my family up. It placed me in a role that I never thought I was capable of being in. He was always the rock, so I had to step up and be much stronger of a person. It's definitely hard, and I miss him so much every day, but like, I thank him for continuously guiding me and showing me things. He's been coming through my art, and all kinds of things. He's transformed my life in so many ways. So I'm very grateful for him, and I like to look at it as him, being in peace and no longer in turmoil and having to deal with the things that he was tormented with. And now he's able to be beyond the stars and make those power moves that he wasn't able to make when he was here on Earth. So I look at
Mm.
him as my man on the moon. I have two paintings of him in front of me, and one of them, he's in the universe, and he's like holding on to the moon, and there's a UFO like that's trying to take him off, because we're like, man, come back! What are you doing? So the UFO
Mm.
is us, but he's up there. He's got his iPod on, like he's got his music, his Arizona tea. He's got his hoodie on. His like he had these like silicone octopus tentacles. He was such a jokester,
Oh.
and so, so like he's got his octopus tentacles. He's like, "What are you guys doing, man?" That's my man on the moon. He's up there chilling.
That's great.
Yeah. So he's
Love it.
a puppet master up there, and I'm sure
Oh
that
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna get the justice that he deserves.
Hmm. Mm. That's great. Uh, your paintings sound great, is what I mean
Thank
to
you.
say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They are. They help.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Art and being creative is the only thing. Maybe not the only
Yeah.
thing, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Honestly, I that's one of the only things that has brought me out of these really depressive states.
Mm.
A year ago, we were in a whole different place. We were dealing with homelessness, and after being
Mm-hmm.
with my mom for so long, and things were a bit tense for sure, and having to deal with the fact that we weren't close, and what I was going through with my brother before he passed, like things kind of came to a head last year,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't able to be there anymore.
Sure.
It just wasn't a very warming environment at that time. So, we were in a shelter, and I was so depressed, and I couldn't like lift myself out of it. And my partner's like, just paint, just get back into your painting. I woke up one morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I cranked out three of my favorite paintings that I have, and
Mm.
I call them my beauties, and they're so strong and positive and bright, and that really got me back into my art again. I tried right after my brother passed, and I painted his portrait, which was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I wasn't even like really able to finish it in the way that I wanted to, because I was like, it's starting to look just like him, and it's just it was too much,
Yeah, sure.
So after that, I stopped painting for a while. But when my partner got me back into it, I'm like, now I can't stop. And now every time I'm feeling in a down moment, I just immerse myself into my art. That helps. Now being able to share it with so many other people, and make them feel happy and bring them out of their depression. Or, I've done a lot of memorial portraits, and
Mm.
humans and animals, and it takes somebody to a whole different place, having their portrait something that they can look at every day and memorialize that person or pet. Usually before it's done, they'll come to me crying and saddened, but then afterwards they're just beaming with joy. And what you're able to do with art is just so incredible. Art, like
Mm-hmm.
audio, visual, whatever, like it's a feeling, and it's so needed for this world, especially everything that
Yeah.
we're going through right now. It is so needed. Music makes you feel good. To see a beautiful piece of art makes you feel good. It just gives you this inner like jolt of emotion, that's unexplainable. So if I can do that through something that I'm able to create, now coming from somebody who like all I used to do was destroy, that's
Mm.
huge. I can't stop now if I wanted to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It won't let you now.
No, not at all.
Yep. Yeah, I was on your website a bit ago, and I saw the first paintings that you have up there. They are just so vibrant and
Those
full
are my
of life.
beauties. Yeah.
And those
Thank you.
are they? Okay, I was
Yeah.
wondering if they were. Oh man, they're so beautiful, and
Thank
I just
you.
love the colors. They're so rich in color, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
I mean,
Yeah, so
yes, I
those are the
love
ones
them.
that I painted in the shelter that
Okay.
really
Oh wow.
brought me out of that depression. It was just so dark and dank in there, and just the spirit around was just so dreary and
Mm,
hopeless. And I was like, no, I need something vibrant, something alive in here, and that's what came out. And typically, like I would like most of my paintings are on black backgrounds and are darker, and for a reason. Like I like the contrast that it gives, and it draws your eye into it. But for those particular ones, I was like, no, they need a shine. They need to
mm-hmm.
be bright, and they spoke to my soul, and everything that I wanted for myself, and everything I knew I was capable of. And yeah, those are my beauties. The one with the short hair, I
Yeah.
actually shaved my head. I went straight up '07 Britney on my head, and this was like
There you go.
probably like it was like 2 weeks before my brother passed away too, which was
Mm,
it meant a lot in that moment, because I was like, I now I don't have to worry about my hair. I used to be like so like into it, and it had to be perfect and all that. But what are you gonna do when you don't have any?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a very
Yep.
empowering moment. So yeah,
Oh
they
wow.
my art usually has something to do with the things that I'm going through, and they
Hmm.
all have stories, and I'm more than willing to share with anybody who wants to know. But yeah, they're all connected to a different part of my life and for a different reason.
So I would like to ask you the couple questions that I ask everybody, and then I would love to hear about all the places that we can find you online and support you, and anybody else that you would like us to check out and support as well. But first, I would love to hear, well, so there's this one question that that has gone kind of back and forth with some of my guests on how they feel about it. And I'll kind of describe it just so you're aware, because I don't think we talked about this ahead of time. It began as, the question was simply, what would make you feel equal? And some people think a certain way about that question and other people think a different way. So I changed it to, what would make you feel seen as equal? Because the essence of the question is, of course, everybody is equal and you are equal, and everybody individually feels equal, of course. So, but given how things are in our society, the question is, what would make you feel seen by our society as, and treated as equal? So that's the question. But if you prefer to answer more about, just comment on how things are in our society currently and leave it at that, then that's totally fine too. I'm totally open to however you feel like answering that question.
No, and I totally understand that question for exactly what it is, because we're not equal. And I think it's very obvious that we are not all equal. And it's really unfortunate. It's really disheartening. Of course, I feel, well, no, I honestly, because I don't feel equal a lot. I feel I should be. But walking down the street, I know I'm not equal. And I guess that's what I would want to see change, is to be able to walk down the street with my head held high and know that if I pass someone that is the complete opposite of me, color-wise, that we would be able to have the same rights and respect. But that's not the case right now. So I don't 100% feel equal. I would love to be able to say that I do. But I've gone through a lot of racial situations in my life. I highlighted my brother, but I've been dealing with race since I was a kid. Being ostracized at school, and honestly, that came from both white people and Black people. Coming from North Seattle. When I switched over to African American Academy, I wasn't seen as a Black person. I was seen as an Oreo. I spoke with eloquence, and that was frowned upon. So that's always been disheartening. So it goes across the board, honestly. And the only way that we're going to ever be able to get past all of the atrocities of the world is to come together and understand that, yes, we are all equal. We are all people. Just because you are white and I am Black, or vice versa, doesn't mean that we are not on the same plane. That doesn't mean that I've gone through more than you have as a person. Your hardships are your own, and you have every right to feel the way that you do about what has happened to you in your life, as do I. So once we can actually see that and understand that, then we'll be able to move forward. So, oh goodness, I hope I didn't go off on a tangent about the question. But
that's great. Yeah.
So that's
I appreciate that.
I think once we do that, then we'll all be seen, but at this point, everyone's just so focused about what they have going on, that's totally understandable. It's your life, and everything you're going through is detrimental or, monumental for your life. However, it's best to look at the world as a whole. The only way that we're going to survive and succeed as a whole is if we band together. And I see you, you see me, you see my struggles and my hardships and what I can overcome, and vice versa, and help each other get to the next step. But until that happens, we're all just going to be walking around blind. It's unfortunate, but I don't really know exactly what to do about that. Just being one single little person. The only thing I do is spread the message of inclusion and love and positivity and kindness as much as possible. I preach it till I'm blue in the face, even if I don't feel it 100%, but that's the only way it's going to work out.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what brings you joy or fun?
Being with my family. I've got an amazing little family. We've all gone through a lot. And to be here right now where we are and just, like I said, in our own little pocket, we're just, we shut all the negativity out and we're just this little home positive energy. And it's amazing. You know, we sage and we sing and we do all that stuff. You know, when I'm having my hardest moments, I can turn to my family. I can, you know, look at my boys in awe, and I can go snuggle up with my man and he'll let me know is okay. And, you know, like I said, even though my mom and I weren't really in the best place a couple of years ago, I look at her and I'm so very proud of her and the fact that she's still pushing forward, dealing with everything. And so, you know, just I think my family and my art, it makes me happy. Not in my space right now because it's super chaotic in here, but I just look at all my paintings and I'm like, man, like you're doing it, you know? I never thought I was good enough at first, and now pushing all of that aside and I'm able to actually see myself for who I am and what I'm capable of. That alone makes me just over the moon.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good. You say you have 2 boys, is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
13 and 8.
Oh, okay.
The 8-year-old's my biological son, but you know, my 13-year-old's my son also. So
yeah,
we've all been separate and doing our own things, and in the last couple of years we've been able to just come back together stronger than ever, and it's been amazing. Just building, and between my partner and I, we've got 5 businesses that we're working on, and
wow.
Just continuously building each other up, and you know, wanting more, and not only for us but for people around us. You know, we want to be able to help build other people up as well. You know, so we're getting there. You know, baby steps, but we're getting there.
Yeah, where can we find you all? Online or elsewhere?
Shoot, I mean, I'm on every single platform practically. It's a little exhausting, but my name is a variation of Shea Black Art on all platforms. It's sheablack.art on Instagram. I think it's Shea Black /art on Facebook. But just I actually just got my website up. It's live. It's still under construction, so don't judge me, people. But
it looks good. I was able to see your images and your paintings. It looks good. Yeah.
So that is SheaBlackEnterprises.com. I'm working on a clothing line right now, so that should be up on my website pretty soon. So yeah, I'm all over the place. I have a YouTube. Come follow me on YouTube. I'll be doing more stuff on there. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm
always doing random things, so you know, I don't know.
Yeah. Good. Yes, your website looks great.
Thank you.
And then people can find all of the Facebook, Instagram from your website, I think, but also we'll put it in the show notes too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that people can find it there. Definitely recommend following you. And I'm really glad we connected. I think I found you through Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
Because you follow our podcast. So thanks for following our podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for doing this podcast. Like it's an amazing platform, and I appreciate you wanting to hear us. You know, that's rare. That's very rare. So I appreciate you for standing and aiding and being a part of our journey and our culture, because it's strong and we're alive. We're here, you know, like we're not going anywhere. So I'm just glad to know that there are people that actually want to know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I hope to make it less rare for sure too.
Yeah,
because,
for sure.
Oh man. I mean, yeah, I think communicating and listening is one of the big ways we can move forward. And everybody has such a important story to share. So I appreciate you sharing yours for us today, and hopefully we can connect in the future some more, either for art things or for more take notice things. Yeah. And I can tell that you're in Des Moines because I hear the planes sometimes.
Oh goodness, I know it is. And of course I'm in my garage, so you hear them a little more. But they have to double pane all the windows and everything in the house just to kind of drown out some of the noise. So yeah, we're right under the flight pattern.
That's probably like the one downside to the pleasant neighborhood. stupid and stuff,
And
right?
like it's to
But
the point where like we just ignore them completely, but we
oh,
have
I
our
bet. Yeah.
plain like we have our like plain voice, and then we have our plain voice like when we have to shout at people
Yeah.
outside and
Yeah.
or like just
Yeah.
stop the conversation completely until they pass. And
Just like wait and
yeah, people are like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, we gotta wait for this plane to go by again."
Yeah.
But it's nice.
I'm
And
used to that with the trains. Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah. I just like to
Mhm.
think like, okay, well, people are traveling, so that's a good thing. So I can't be mad. Try to
Right.
come
Yeah,
up with
that's
a positive
true.
about it.
I guess it probably got kind of quiet last year, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did
That would be
actually.
weird.
It was
Hmm.
because like one day we were outside just having a conversation, an actual conversation. It was like probably like 20 minutes into it. I was like, we've actually been able to talk this whole time. There have been no planes going
Weird.
by. It was
Wow.
a really weird feeling, actually. So I actually, in
Huh.
that moment, I missed the planes because I was like, oh man, that made me think about what was going on in the world and the fact that
Yeah.
everything was so stagnant and people weren't able to travel, and that made me sad. So I actually missed the
Right.
planes in that moment.
Weird.
Great.
That's pretty good. Something you thought you would never say, I bet.
I know. I missed the planes.
That's funny. Well, they sound like they're back now, and hopefully, I
Oh
mentioned
yeah.
that just it's totally fine, but it might come through on the audio,
Okay. Well, now
so I might be
everybody
able to pull
knows.
it out. But yeah, everybody knows what that is and why because
Yes.
they're right by SeaTac,
Safe.
so it's all good. Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. It's how it goes. It's how it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. It is
Yep.
what it is.
Yeah. Oh man, thank you so much for sharing and for joining me,
Absolutely.
and hopefully we get to connect again very soon.
Absolutely. I'm sure we
Thank you
will.
so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for having me again. You've been awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. It would really help us out if you could take a couple of minutes to review our podcast. Thank you for your support. Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger-Heggins, co-produced by Amanda Ray. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Heggins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.